Introducing Instagram Teen Accounts, a new way to keep your teen safer as they grow, like making sure they always have their seatbelt on.
All right, buckle up. Good job.
New Instagram Teen Accounts, automatic protections for who can contact your teen and the content they can see.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This is the Weekly Scramble, a place where we chat about life over a cold one or two. It's time to belly up to the pod with Mike Fratelloni and your host, Chris Reavers.
That's right. It's time for the Weekly Scramble. My name is Chris Reavers. By my side, his name is Mike Fratelloni with Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores. Hello, Michael.
How you doing, Reavers?
You know, it's kind of a loaded question a day like today. I know we have a lot of pressing matters that we want to get to here in the Weekly Scramble, but I've known you pretty well for the last couple of years.
10 years, yeah.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway, because you and I are very similar in a lot of ways.
Sure.
But we're different in this regard. As I know what I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is going to be, but today was a day where, you know, in doing a little show prep before GL with the mayor, and then doing GL, and then sitting here because I was doing some editing before you walked in, posting the show, things of that nature. I was reading a story, and I just thought, what the F is going on?
It happens a lot nowadays, doesn't it?
Do you feel like that? Because I don't think you do.
No, I do. I still have hope. I still have hope that the masses are not going crazy. Just the fringes.
Okay.
But the fringe have the same amount of power. And plus, the news needs to talk about the fringe. Otherwise, it's not, hey, everybody got along today. What a great day. It's Tuesday. It's something has to happen. What happened?
Well,
what made you question?
I arrived at that decision because obviously on Garage Logic, we are chronicling or trying to everything, all the insanity that's taking place in the legislature these past couple of days, because basically what's going on is pure insanity.
It's just a free-for-all.
And I'm thinking, well, I know the answer. I know that these people aren't smart enough to realize that the damage that they're going to end up doing when people finally get their tax bill in, what would it be, April of 2024 or what? They're going to say, wait a minute, what?
Wait, what? Oh.
Because nothing is free.
Sure.
But the voting public, I think right now, is still operating under the assumption that everything's fine.
Sure.
Because not enough, we've said this a million times, not enough people are paying attention.
No, and people will actually use the term, well, that's government money. It's like, the government
there is no
doesn't have
such
money.
thing. They're not a business.
No, they're not a business.
That's
they're
our
not
money.
for profit.
To the point where I was having a discussion over the weekend with a couple of people in the ages between 28 and 35. It was about a half a dozen of us just sitting around and chewing the you-know-what, right?
Sure.
And these are intelligent men that pay attention to the news, but, have families. They're very busy.
Yeah, they're busy.
And they had zero idea that any of this was going on. I said, oh, did you heard about X, Y, and Z? No, what are you talking about? And that's what I'm afraid is going on, is that, and I don't blame them. I'm married to one of those people.
It's apathy. Yeah.
Where she says, just let me know what I need to know. Yeah. Because she just doesn't want to be bothered by it. And, to the point where she has a very similar sensibility that I do. She that's why we got married, is because we're like-minded in a lot of ways. And I think that's what got us into this mess.
Do you think those people are just happier?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe
no question.
We're the dopes.
No question.
And they're just happier. But
if you're not informed, how are you supposed to make a proper decision?
Yeah. I don't. Rivers. Okay, what story did you read?
That was a very loaded question.
What story did you read? I want to hear this because now I feel like I might have missed something, although I've heard enough.
Okay.
I
went down a rabbit hole because to peek into my daily life, when I'm posting the show, I have a certain procedure where it's actual show that goes onto the GL, because everything kind of times out and takes so much time, where I've kind of worked it into a system where I can start on this.
Sure.
While that's loading, I can work on that. While that's loading, I can go back to, so I have a little system. So there's a Twitter account, and Joe's going to be so happy if he hears me getting news from Twitter. Mm-hmm. But there's a Twitter account that you need to follow.
Okay.
It's called Clown World.
Oh, yeah, I follow it.
Okay,
Yep.
so you know exactly
Yep.
which one. It always features snippets, little videos.
Just the most insane things.
And it's hilarious because
Yeah.
I find it funny.
Well, kind of.
Well, and once in a while, it will lead to, I should have looked up that story. So I'll go, it will remind me of a certain story to go look up, to the point where there was one video, and I know this will make your blood boil. There was one video of a protest happening, I want to say it was in France. Mm-hmm. And they're blocking the traffic.
Sure.
To, obviously because of climate change, and we have to eliminate fossil fuels because
Can't let people drive if
Right.
they're killing the earth.
And then a delivery guy is stuck in front of these protests, and I know this guy. He's saying, I need to get my job done.
Yeah.
I want to go home. I don't want to deal with this crap.
I got to pick my kids up at school at 3:00.
So he takes a protest. He gets out of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. He moves a protester. The protester exaggerates the fall to the ground. There's police there. They arrest the driver, the delivery driver. They handcuff him against his own vehicle, and you can see him saying, I just want to go home.
Sure. I just want to get.
And I said, and that's I guess what I'm talking about.
The backwards world.
We've just developed into such a backwards world that Joe asked this loaded question earlier. I can't remember if it was during the show or not. I don't know that this is going to be a quick fix. I think we're going to do harm for decades.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of mental damage to people. I read a story. It was in the New York Times, and it was about a woman who I'm thinking it might have been the New York Post. It was a fairly reputable paper, and it was a woman who was being mentally, physically, and verbally abused by her boyfriend, who transitioned into a woman.
Oh my!
And the woman, after all this years of abuse, was arrested because she misgendered the abuser in court documents.
Oh my!
She called her a him. And she was arrested.
This was the person's spouse.
This girlfriend.
Oh, I'm sorry,
right?
girlfriend.
So, if I can make this, it's so confusing when you got to jump, right? So this girl was dating a man. The man decided, who was like a bodybuilder, he decided to transition. But as he was transitioning, she claimed that he was actually kind of becoming jealous of her, right? And he started to become physically, verbally, like really abusive. And in the court documents, this woman made comments calling this transgender person a male, misgendering him. So she was arrested for misgendering her.
You have got to be kidding me.
And and
where was this?
I think in England.
Okay.
Right? And I should know before I quote the story.
No, that's okay.
But it's we're not overly fact based, so it doesn't matter.
No.
But I
we're
read
a throw it against the wall kind of a show.
That sounds wrong. Maybe that seems like if you were dating a person and he was a guy, you could just go ahead and still call him a guy.
But it's just this idea that we've lost the ability of logic and reason. We've just lost that element of society where it's, in this particular case, okay, this person wants to pretend that they are no longer a man, that they are a woman. That's fine. You do you. Mm-hmm. If you want to live your life as a woman,
God bless you. Be careful.
You go right ahead.
Yeah.
But don't expect me and everybody else to pretend with you.
Sure.
Right?
2 + 2 no longer equals 4 for a lot of people.
I don't understand why that's now also part of the equation.
Yeah. Have you read George Orwell's 1984?
Oh, of course.
Okay. So, I mean, that was not an instruction manual.
No.
That was
right.
That was a book that should have put terror into people's hearts, right? Oh, this tyranny could happen to us, right? And it seems to be happening. Have you heard the kerfuffle with Target?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if people aren't aware of this, if this Fox News is reporting this, can I go to the story?
Hang on one second before you, and I do want to talk about that, but you mentioned 1984, and there was a video I watched where it was talking about how influencers are making videos about euthanasia, right? And it says, "Are you excited?" As this young woman is talking to her grandmother, and I'm convinced it's fake.
Okay,
so take that for what it's worth. But the phrase that was associated with this is, we need to stop using words like Orwellian to describe our culture because it makes things seem better than they really are. And I couldn't agree with that more. Wow. Orwellian makes it seem like, oh, that's pleasant.
Yeah. Oh, it's Orwellian.
Yeah. No. We need to come up with a much more grim name than Orwellian because that just makes it sound too easy.
Oh, I was reading that book one time. I was reading 1984. I was laying in my bed. I was super relaxed. And my girlfriend allowed my best friend to come into the house. And she said to him, hey, he's up in the bedroom reading, right? So I'm reading, and if that is an incredibly tense book, right?
Yeah.
When it starts to go a little further into it. And my buddy came running into my bedroom screaming, right? To kind of scare me.
Yeah.
And I screamed like a 13-year-old girl. If I ever questioned my gender, that was it when I went, ah! I mean, it was like I had no choice. I mean, I was right on. I was like, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. He scared me so much. I was like, holy crap.
Well, and the reason I mentioned the video account, for those of you that are wondering, it's just look up Clown World. And it basically just, all it does is showcases these various videos. And one that I knew you'd love, it's a protester who has decided to glue his hand to the street.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh, well, wow, you must be really serious. And so the police officer just cuts around his hand and removes the chunk of concrete.
Sure.
And then says, all right, now you're coming with me.
Yeah.
And I thought,
what I don't get is, what are we doing? Let him sit there. You glue yourself to the middle of the street. Congratulations. You are now going to sit in the middle of the street.
Or the woman that did it to the Timberwolves
game, right?
Game last year.
Well, that's if you can catch them when it's still wet, if the glue's wet. But if you put your hand in concrete and you lock yourself to the middle of the road, there's consequences. There is consequences. You are going to sit out there till you beg, and maybe that person called 911. You never know.
I need a little help here.
I need a little help. I've made a mistake. That Clown World also has this new Clown World Twitter account has a new trend that some young gentlemen seem to be doing, where they're walking into people's homes. And they're videotaping themselves walking into somebody's house, and it is frightening. Could you imagine just a group of 10 kids walking into your house all of a sudden, with your baby sitting there and it's bassinet, and you're looking around saying, honey, what is going on? Like, you don't do that in America because they're doing it in Europe. It's a European trend.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, because if you're doing it in America, you're dead. Because people would shoot you dead.
That's the problem, I think, that I'm kind of alluding to, is the fact that these kids, and I know exactly what you're referencing, have been so emboldened that they know nothing will happen to them.
Nothing will happen.
And to the point where homeowners are now smart enough to be aware of the fact that I don't even know if I'm safe now protecting my home or my family. Because especially in this godforsaken state.
Yeah, if someone's coming into my house or your house, it would be a huge mistake. It would be a really tragic mistake.
I get that, but I'm still, aren't you always mindful of kind of what's...
If people were walking into my house, there is no mindful. I'm going to be super honest with you. It would be done.
Okay.
It would be done.
Okay.
I don't even know if they'd find the person anymore. I
don't know what you're talking about.
That's how, remember that Pulp Fiction where they kept the guy down in the basement?
Yes.
I could build a room like that.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to do the same thing they do in Pulp Fiction, but I could have a room like that.
God, I hope not.
Yeah, no.
So,
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
So we had the Target hold my Bud Light situation, right? So I don't know if hopefully people have heard of this one, and they maybe have, but breaking news right now by Fox News that the Target Corporation is getting together, having these emergency meetings because they have these pride departments in their stores that which they've had for years, right? Where they sell Pride because Pride Month is coming up. The month of June is Pride Month. Seems like a long time for a whole month. That seems like a long time, right?
Sure, whatever.
But whatever,
no,
right?
Yeah,
I don't care.
I don't either. Do your thing.
Do your thing. Don't care. But they have kids sections. And in their kids sections, they have some really kind of interesting products. And one of them is a swimsuit that's called tuck friendly, meaning a child could tuck themselves under to kind of appear like a different gender. And people, and it says in the South, are really mad at this, right? And the employees are taking horrible backlash. And the Target representatives are saying, hey, pull this product not from the shelf, but move it into a secondary or tertiary location in the store, not right up front. Take down all the signage. And it is one of those things that Bud Light has become a bellwether. Like, this is what could happen to your organization if you really do something that pushes what people are comfortable with. And again, you said it before. We don't care. I don't care. But little kids should be little kids. You got to be very careful with little kids.
Just leave kids alone.
And they were talking. Senator Ted Cruz was talking about the Bud Light situation. And they said, "Hey, when you gave Dylan Mulvaney money to promote Bud Light, but Dylan's a transgender girl. He's not a transgender woman." He proclaims he's a 12-year-old girl. He goes shopping for Barbies. The vast majority of his followers are preteens or early teens. And so now Bud Light might get in trouble for advertising to children Bud Light, which is a unique little kick in the teeth, isn't it? Well, I mean, you think of it. Right? They're not putting a child star. And if Dylan's proclaiming to be a young woman, a girl,
that makes sense then,
she's proclaiming to be a girl, well, you can't advertise to girls. That's against the law. Bud Light. So it's like, they're going to get you some way, somehow.
I keep asking this question, and I'm wanting someone to provide the right answer. It's how can you, as an entity, and this just in, Target's a pretty big entity.
Yes. And a great one.
And
for great retailers.
And they've experienced such an economic boom when COVID hit, because basically they were
they were open.
The only places that was allowed to be open. I have a lot of issues with that as well. But retail, so a lot of retail did really well.
Yep.
Then to pivot, if that's the right word, but to go down this road, how can you not think big picture? How can you not say, by doing this, we're pretty much going to tick off half of our customer base, right? Whereas make the product available, sell it online.
Sure.
That's whatever. But to just openly put this in people are so tired of stuff like this being shoved down their throats. That's what's causing this backlash. And it's not because people are revolting against the idea of
someone
pride.
being gay. No one cares anymore.
It shouldn't even be an issue anymore, because guess what? It's not.
And an argument to that is, well, it was an issue 15 years ago, and it was an issue 25 years ago, and these incremental changes that retailers have made it a not issue, right? They've actually brought the consciousness of Americans to no one cares anymore, right?
Yep.
We just don't care. But children is a little different thing, right? You don't need to go right after children. I do know one thing, Reavers, is I in years past, I've had a hot tub. And hot tubs have a lot of chlorine in it, right? And it really ruins swimsuits. But right after June is over, you can go to Target and get yourself a nice, might have a like a little gay pride symbol on it, but they're like $2.
Right.
And you can use that because all it's going to do is get chewed apart in the hot tub water, right? So I was the fortunate fella because, first of all, I'm a perfect medium. So there's a lot of mediums left, right? And the shop that I used to went on University, I went to the Target on University in St. Paul. It didn't seem like it had a huge gay pride, following at that site. The swimsuits were like 97 cents. And I was like, I'm taking these 4, got this great gray swimsuit with has a little rainbow on it. I like rainbows. Yeah. So, and so it fit. It just shows what a whore I actually am.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, I don't care.
That's just a good deal.
I don't care. That's such a good deal. I'm going to buy 4 of those swimsuits. And my kids are looking at me like, Dad, that's a gay pride. I'm like, what do you have against that?
Well,
right?
I wanted to tie this email into what you were just discussing, because I think I'm going to be successful in making the amateur link. And I want to thank Jeff Donnelly for supplying this information, because I verified it and he's 100% correct. I wanted to share 4 numbers with you. Don't worry, there's no math involved. And see if you can make a link to life in the USA as it stands in 2023. According to the Washington Post, they had a story that was dated April 30th. At their highest peak back in 1955, state mental hospitals held 558,922 patients. So almost 559,000 patients. Today, they hold around 35,000. The U.S. population in 1955 was 161 million. And now it's well over
300 plus,
350, whatever it is now. That's very, very interesting. Not saying that we should lock up everybody, but there is something to be said there, right? I mean, this insanity, and not saying that anybody that doesn't have the exact same opinion that I have is insane. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is there are people that are roaming amongst us that shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just fact.
They're a danger to themselves and to others.
And to
right?
others,
And,
yes.
and a clear danger to others, right?
Yep.
Because I'm kind of a live and let live. If you're a danger to yourself, although it's repugnant that as a society, we would allow people to do that. Living on the streets, you're mentally ill, we shouldn't do that. In fact, you had told me a story right before we started. You said, hey, the state of Minnesota was thinking about spending $108 million on health care for immigrants that aren't necessarily legal in the United States,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And there's a side of me that's compassionate, Reavers, because if a 13-year-old girl is having something wrong and I want her to be able to go get health care, I'd pay that for her, right? Me as Mike Fratelloni as a human, I don't care where she's from. I don't care what about. If she didn't have the funds to do it, I would want to make sure she's okay.
Yep.
That's the logical side of that. That's the compassionate side. The logical side is you can't do that if you always do that. If everyone gets it, pretty soon we won't have any more money to give, right?
Yeah.
We'll be just tapped out, and then no one will have it, right? And it seems like
Well, that's what I... Oh, go
ahead.
I was just going to say, that's the tipping point that I think we're teetering not only on, but we're past.
I don't think so.
Well, because I don't know if you caught the show yesterday, because I know you tend to listen to shows in chunks.
I listened to Minnesota Monday Night Sports Talk first.
Okay.
I didn't listen to.
I don't blame you.
Okay.
So yesterday on the show, I was citing statistics from Pat Garofalo, Republican Senator Pat Garofalo, or legislator, excuse me, and basically talking about the amount of income that the state of Minnesota is hemorrhaging to outside states.
Sure.
I think mostly to Wisconsin and South Dakota, but I'm willing to be corrected. And it's significant.
Sure.
It's increasing basically every year on a, what would you call it?
Exponential growth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So to the point where I'd be very curious to see how much, and I'm talking, this number is, in fact, why don't I get this for you? Because I think you'll find this interesting.
I would find it fascinating because we are losing a lot of people in Minnesota.
But I'm wondering that, okay, then our business is next. You're a business guy.
Of course. Well, I mean, all you have to do is lose 2% of the population and your sales are down 2%. Right? No one likes to go down in 2%. You want to be in an area with growth, not an area with atrophy.
Oh, did he block me? Why can't I find him right now, for crying
My
out
God,
loud?
did you got blocked by a legislator?
No, I'm just kidding. It's right here. Here we go. In fact, he just updated this. Democrats have disputed negative migration is happening, weapons-grade denialism. Minnesota is bleeding an increasing amount of wealth to other states. Here is the amount of adjusted gross income Minnesota has lost to other states via negative migration. You ready? In 2017, so obviously this is way before COVID, it was $215 million in 2017. 18, $703 million.
Okay, that's 3x. Okay.
2019. $917 million.
It's going the wrong way.
Now we're at 2020, and when all hell broke loose with COVID. In 2020, and again, I'm not going to, I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I'm going to cut the state a break with COVID because once everyone discovered that you can pretty much work from wherever, that changed everything, right? So, so I will.
A lot of that was outside of the control of the.
So, for instance, I know someone personally they said, well, you know what? The weather here sucks. Yeah. So me and my family, my wife is a stay at home. They ended up moving to Arizona, and that's just where they set up camp. Because his wife absolutely and that's of course what put the bug in my wife. Well, we can live somewhere warm. Well, no, honey, I have to come in every day. Anyway, 2020, $1.2 billion. 2021, $1.56 billion. Wow. So I'm going to be curious to see what this number is going to be for 2022.
It's not going to go down.
No.
It's not going down. So that's revenue, tax revenue loss?
That is adjusted gross income Minnesota has lost to other states via negative migration.
Okay, so I'm wondering what that term adjusted gross income means. Is that
IRS tax data?
Okay, so IRS
which is accessible to anybody.
Is taxed. So it could be the amount of income people were paid in the state of Minnesota that's not going to be taxed at the state of Minnesota because that income's out of Minnesota now. Is that the way you're reading it?
Correct.
So like $1.5 billion of people's salaries are not due. Minnesota won't be able to tax that salary. Is that what you're getting?
Yes,
Yeah.
because
So about
there's a lot
100
of people that are combating this information, and he's putting up charts saying, look, I'm not making this up.
Here it is. Yeah, it's not.
And some people are saying, in fact, there's one comparison to this saying this is the equivalent of a 200-pound man losing a pound, which I don't think is factually correct.
Sure.
But basically his comeback was, hey, listen, you can look and compare to other states. We're 41st right now.
People are leaving.
Which that's significant. And I just don't, it's the argument I've always had with people when they say, when you point out the folly of, well, no one goes downtown anymore, huh? Mm-hmm. And they're showing a picture of a family riding their bikes, across a Stone Arch Bridge.
Sure.
Well, it proves nothing.
It proves nothing.
That doesn't mean that downtown is all of a sudden safe.
Yep.
And it's fair to point out both that, yes, on an absolutely gorgeous Saturday, you are going to find a lot of people at the farmer's market or whatever, or going to a Twins game.
Yep.
I'm not saying that isn't happening while it's not safe to get on the light rail, as we've clearly seen. In fact, Kenny mentioned this earlier, that we now have, and I'll find the source, we have the most unsafe transit system in the country.
Really?
Light rail is the most unsafe.
Wow.
And this was a study that was done. I should have found that.
That's really interesting, though. Even if it's in the top anything,
but
that's
it's because of a number of things. No one pays to use it. There's no system in which, for instance, if you want to ride the subway in New York, you have to pay your fare and you have to go through. So there's none of that.
You have to at least be able to jump a turnstile.
And unfortunately, we had the horrible story of the young man who was pushed in front of it and lost his life on Saturday or Friday night into Saturday morning.
And people are just sleeping on it when it's cold because they're using it as
Mike. It makes me sad.
I know, Reavers. So I have a friend who runs a foundation, right? And we were talking about the wealth that has left Minnesota, and he said, "Oh, rich people do not die in Minnesota, right?" So when you look at all that salaries that are gone out of Minnesota, right? The taxation we get on that. Well, rich people who have high net worths, have to spend 15% of their total net worth in Minnesota taxes when they die, right? So the first, I think, is $1.5 million is excluded. So for a couple, it would be $3 million. So, and if you had a net worth of $13 million, which sounds like a lot, $10 million of that would be applicable for state taxes of $1.5 million. Wow. So when you die, they go ahead and say to you, you owe us $1.5 million.
Right.
So picture a farmer who owns 10,000 acres of land.
I can relate.
And it's worth a whole lot of money, but he doesn't have $13 million in cash or $10 million in cash. He's got $10 million worth of property. But now he has to come up with $1.5 million, or his heirs have to come up with $1.5 million in cash to pay the state of Minnesota. People with money leave here. They go to Florida. They go to Arizona. They go to Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
They set up a P.O. box.
Well, it's strange. They do whatever they can. But rich people just do not die here anymore. And you just think how sad that is when you look at people who have been here their entire life, and that the economics of someone, because it almost feels, I think many people believe it feels like they're stealing from them. This is already taxed income. Minnesota's already taxed that income that they made. Yep. It's already been taxed with capital gains tax. It's already been taxed federally. And then, oh, by the way, the state of Minnesota gets anything over $1.5 million, they get 15% of it. It seems highly unfair. The problem is you have a spectrum of people, right? 50-some% of Minnesotans say they should not only tax it 15%, they should tax it all. Why does anybody get to keep $10 million after they die? Right? We have people that do that.
Oh, yeah.
And then other people who say, why did they ever touch any of my income, period? Right? We have that spectrum. Mm-hmm. And the answer is, I think what you really have to do is you have to get people paying taxes. You have to have them feel what it feels like to pay taxes. And I always go back to this thing where the people who don't want to pay taxes, I want to go see what kind of phones they have. And if they have the new iPhone 14, I want to take it away from them and say, I'm sorry, you can't have an iPhone 14. That person needs that phone. Here's an iPhone 8, right? Because if you took their phone away, they'd be like, oh, wait, I earned that phone. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter if you earned it. For the collective good, why do you have the best phone?
Right.
You get to have the iPhone 8.
Well, perfectly explained. There was a video we played years ago, and it was an outfit called Campus something or other. I don't know if it was Campus Reformer, maybe. Yeah. But it would go around talking to various college students about this very thing. And I believe it first surfaced when Bernie Sanders had announced that he was going to run for president. I don't know which time. Maybe the first time he announced he was going to run.
A guy who, on his honeymoon, took his wife to Russia. That's where he honeymooned. He's that much of a communist. He said, I need to go see my motherland, Russia.
So they would find a couple of students and they would say, hey, so what do you think about, living in a socialist society and sharing income? And it was, the typical boilerplate. Oh, I think everyone should have an equal playing field. And then the follow-up question was, oh, okay, sounds good. A follow-up question would be, all right, so you got an A in chemistry. Well, that grade is going to be changed to a C, and the student next to you who was failing is now going to have a C. Well, that's not right. I earned that A. Oh, that's different then. Oh, I see. Okay. So once it affects you, then the rules are different.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, got it.
Oh, that we have to do that, and I remember seeing that video too years ago.
Yeah,
we have to make people feel that feeling and say, wait. That doesn't feel right.
We did it earlier. There was a woman, a legislator out of Hastings, who Alpha News had dug up and found her campaign video in which she just talked about anybody that thinks that she's going to vote for a gas tax is kidding themselves. And of course, she voted for the gas tax.
Yeah.
And then of course, but there's a million examples of whether it's Walls or whoever that they promised, $2,000 rebate checks and, actually, we're going to give you a check for $6.
Yeah, $260.
But it's just comical because, and they all know the game, right? Yeah, they're going to say whatever they want to on the campaign trail, and they know damn well once they get into office that their tune's going to change.
That's why I kind of like Bernie. Bernie is a communist socialist.
But he ain't lying?
But he's not lying about it. He's been that way for his entire life. Again, when he got married, he took his wife to Russia. He's not pretending to be anything but what he is.
Okay.
I think he may be foolish, ill-conceived, illogical, right? And when he gets kind of caught and they said, well, do you feel guilty for getting this advance on your book? And he said, well, you can write a book and become a millionaire too. It's like, oh, no, that's not how your system works, Bernie. You don't get to have it both ways. Either you're socialist or not. I think what we should do is people who are really maybe trying to destroy the fabric of our country, what we could do is just ask them to pay more taxes, right? They can just voluntarily just pay more.
There you
go. Just go ahead. If you think the correct tax rate for an individual is 75%, you just go ahead and pay it.
I like that.
I assume the IRS would accept that.
Well, and that's why when, the Josh and I did our interview today, and he was going to try to get into raising the debt ceiling, but obviously he ran out of time. And there was a great line I saw about that whole the government's worried about running out of money and being able to pay their bills. Hi. Welcome to the rest of welcome to the rest of our world, or whatever.
I love that whole fact that we're talking about going back in time where things will crumble. They're talking about bringing it back 5 months to December 31st of 2022's budget.
Yeah.
This isn't going back 15 years.
I know.
This is going 5 months back, and they can't get to it. That is so foolish that the market is freaking out because they think we won't be able to pass this debt bill, and we're going to default on our bonds. It's like, no, we're not going to.
Yeah.
No, we're not. All we have to do is say, okay, we're going to go ahead and pay them. Oh, and by the way, we could still pay interest on our bonds and not pay other things. We'd have the ability to elect to do that after June 1st. It's so weird, Reavers. It is so weird. The only nice thing is because the United States is the world currency, that if we devalue our currency by a small percentage, it is spread across the entire world, right? So if inflation for now till we won't be, but our currency is still by far the strongest, right? We're not run. I keep going back to. I almost think it's kind of funny thinking that China would attack us when people are like so afraid of the Chinese. The Chinese have to be looking at us thinking, how fast could you put yourself in a hole? How fast can you do this?
You're such an adorable little country.
You're doing it so fast and so efficiently. Congratulations. We don't have to fire one weapon at you. we can just go ahead. And in fact, they might not even want us
Right.
in another 25 years. They might say, we were going to invite you to come over, but why don't you just stay on your side of the
Because you're
ocean?
doing a good enough job.
Yeah, you're
on
doing
your
a good
own.
enough job.
I don't want to end before I forget to mention Harmony Spirits, our buddies down there in Harmony, Minnesota. Handcrafted spirits. I was just looking at their Twitter account, Michael. Their spring cocktail menu has been out for a couple of weeks now. I got to tell you, this looks pretty good.
Does it?
How about a blackberry lemonade with bourbon, blackberry syrup? Oh, boy, that sounds really good. The Fillmore lemonade, whiskey, triple sec, and sweet and sour. Here's the thing. You can just look at their menu and do these at home if you can't make it down to the tasting room in Harmony, Minnesota. Go to your local liquor store, ask for the Harmony brand by name if they don't already have it. The blackberry mojito, vodka, blackberry syrup. I've never had blackberry syrup with a drink. Have you?
It sounds delicious. You were a bartender for years.
That's what I'm saying.
But you worked at a club where like, I need a Bud Light.
Can I get it with a twist? Yeah, it was always, can I get it with a lemon twist? Oh, okay.
Bud Light with
Here's
a
your Bud Light with your lemon twist.
With a zest.
The vodka mule, the mini Thai, which is rum, orange juice, pineapple juice, and cherry syrup. The bee's knees gin. I'm not a gin guy, but those of you that are.
That's my favorite.
Gin, lemon juice, and honey syrup.
That sounds like if you had a little tummy ache, you just have a little gin, lemon juice. That sounds good, doesn't it?
So stop in down there in Harmony, Minnesota. It's supposed to be absolutely gorgeous all Memorial Day weekend.
Perfect ride.
Yeah, go down there, stop in, ask for the Harmony brand by name at your local liquor store, and help support the brand that helps support the weekly Scramble. We really like those guys down in Harmony, Minnesota, and we would be very happy if you stopped in and said hi and let them know that the weekly Scramble sent you in.
I'm going to have one of those tonight.
Think so?
Yeah,
Kind of
I'm
wind
gonna-
down after all of our excessive nonsense we've been
have
discussing.
to. What we are is a release valve for Garage Logic, and we didn't release.
We really
any
didn't do
stress.
that today, did we?
What you have to do is have one of those email jokes that someone does. Right? We're not good enough to know jokes. You need an email joke. Start our shows with an email joke.
Let me see.
Somebody has to have one out,
I'm going
out there.
to see if they have one here. Oh, you know what?
You got to be a little careful just extemporaneously reading one of those.
No,
okay, you got one?
I do. It was one that my son told at the Faribault Laker dugout during our baseball game on Sunday in Shakopee.
Okay.
Why did the toilet paper... No, wait, hold on.
Oh, no. You're going to screw
Hold
it
on,
up.
I gotta do this right. Let's see. Oh, why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road?
Why?
No, you have to repeat the line.
Why? I don't know. Why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road?
He got stuck in the crack.
Da-dum-da.
That was a big hit.
Reavers.
That was a big hit with the children that I
and all the players on the team.
Right.
They had to love that.
Exactly.
Reavers, your kids are the best.
Thank you, Michael. Please do us a favor, rate and review the show wherever you happen to be listening to the Weekly Scramble. We would really appreciate it. His name is Mike Fredoloni. My name is Chris Reavers. We'll do this again next week. Until then, cheers.